Okay, so the Nikon ZR, I'm sure you've already seen multiple videos about this or read about it. This is Nikon's new camera and the first camera collaboration between Nikon and RED. So me and my buddy James just did a video talking about this camera, and at first I was not that excited about it. I thought it was cool that, RED and Nikon were releasing something, wasn't that interested in it. Then I seen the price, and then I perked up because that was very interesting to me, because I was like, okay, $2,000, what does RED have to do with this camera? And the big selling factor of this camera is the RED RAW, R3D RAW inside a Nikon camera. So that's kind of a big deal. That is probably the deal with this camera here. So I really wasn't that interested in seeing that it was a 12-bit R3D RAW and not the full 16-bit R3D RAW. I really wasn't that interested. And actually, I don't know how I would have felt if it's a full 16-bit RED RAW at $2,000 after purchasing a RED Komodo X Z mount this year as well. So I love the KXZ. I'm actually shooting on that right now. I have multiple FX6s, and those have been and still are my workhorses in my company. I use them all the time, but my KXZ has been more of my production camera. I've actually just had fun using it. It's probably the most fun I've ever had shooting on a camera before. It's one of my favorite images. But what I really love about the KXZ, and the main reason I even made that investment, was for the RED RAW. So the R3D RAW is my favorite feature of the RED Komodo X camera. The tools on it are nice too. I love the shape, the ergonomics of the camera. So that's my main cameras I use here. I have some older ones that lay around here I don't really use much anymore and probably aren't worth selling. I kind of keep them for sentimental reasons. But I do have an A7 IV, and the main purpose of that camera is I bought that back when I had my FX6 and I needed a B cam and I wanted a more affordable cam, and I think the FX30 wasn't released then, and I bought an A7 IV. It was more affordable and it was cheaper than an FX3. So that was kind of my content creating, my lightweight camera, my B cam when needed, and my gimbal cam to go with my FX6. So I don't love my A7 IV, but it has been a great camera. And if you're curious to see how it stood up as a B cam to the FX6, I did a video on that. I'll link here. But the A7 IV is a downsampled 7K sensor, so it was sharper. That was kind of my main takeaway, it was sharper than the FX6. But now I bought a second FX6, and the best B cam to an A cam is another A cam. So that's always been my B cam. I love the FX6. Sorry if I'm dragging on here. I'm just kind of explaining my thought process on the Nikon ZR and my perspective on it. So I got the KXZ this year. I love the Komodo, and I've been shooting with the Komodo and the FX6, sometimes as A and B cam. They match okay. It takes a lot of work to get them to match, but it's still not R3D RAW on the FX6. So I started thinking, do I get another Komodo? And I can't get an OG Komodo. Well, I guess I could, because I still shoot a lot of E-mount lenses using the Megadop adapter. I think you can see where I'm going with this. So getting an OG Komodo still would be probably a nice option if I went like PL or so. And you can't, the OG Komodo, you cannot, I believe you cannot upgrade to the E-mount or the Z-mount to be able to use the E-mount adapters. So I was looking at this camera, and then when I was talking to my friend James, he asked me if I would ever use it as a B cam to my Komodo. And I have no idea why that never crossed my mind. And I thought, actually, yeah, I think I definitely would. It's R3D RAW, and it would match the colors of my KX. So that really excited me right away when I thought of that. So then I started thinking about it, and I started thinking, why do I still have an A7 IV? I could probably sell that. I really don't use it. We use it as a B cam for photos too. It's a good photography camera. It's an okay video camera, but I don't use it professionally really much anymore. I just kind of use it for content creation, and it's more of a play. I don't want to say play camera. It kind of is. Like I use it content creation, home video, photos of the dog. It's my only real photo camera that I use the most. Now we do have an A7R. It is an older one, an R3. That is our main flagship photography camera for any kind of hired photo work we get. So that is covered on the photo side. So I crossed my mind, like, you know what? I'll replace my A7 IV. I'll get this Nikon Z, and now I have a hybrid camera. I can talk more about that in a minute. It doesn't seem like a great hybrid camera. I'm seeing there's actually not a lot of stuff actually on the photos side of it, but I've heard it's not a great photo camera. So, and I don't know much about Nikon photo. I never shot Nikon. So unless you count my KXZ. I went ahead and pre-ordered the Nikon ZR, and I'm sure that's no surprise if you've been listening to me up to this point. So at $2,000, I think it's going to be an amazing B cam to my KXZ. So that camera, why it appealed to me, and there are pros and cons. I would have not purchased the Nikon ZR as an A cam. I will say that. It probably, for me, specifically for what I do, this would not be an A cam for me for a lot of the reasons you've probably already seen online. The micro HDMI, I mean, just the ergonomics alone. I'm not a huge fan of like the mirrorless body style, especially when it comes to video cameras. I definitely prefer my FX6s over FX3s. But having an FX3 or something of the sort now will be the Nikon ZR that kind of just lives minimal. It is there as my content creating camera. I'll put an asterisk by that. So a camera that is minimal, stripped down, and maybe lives on a gimbal in some shoots, or it is just on a tripod as a B cam to match my KXZ. The KXZ can fly well on a gimbal too, but the issue I just have sometimes is, depending on the job, sometimes it's not really worth rigging out the KXZ to be on a big old rig, and then I have to break it all down to put it on the gimbal and balance it and then fly it. So having something that is already ready to go, I just pop on the gimbal, it's real lightweight. The Nikon Z, for me, the pros are, the biggest one is R3D RAW, which is awesome. Even though it is still the 12-bit, I'm sure it's going to match right up against the Komodo X Z that I own, using all my E-mount lenses on it. And I've seen people do tests with the Megadap adapter, which is the one I'm using now, and the autofocus seems to perform on par with Sony. So I'm real curious to actually see that, because the KXZ, obviously, the autofocus is not as dependable as the FX6. I'm currently using a manual lens right now. This is not autofocus. But having autofocus that is trustworthy is something that really excites me in the R3D RAW in certain scenarios, certain types of shooting that I may do. It is full frame, so that is something that is unique, having R3D RAW on a full frame camera. You really don't get that. Now, the cheapest way to get that right now, I believe, is the Raptor XE, which was just announced, which is a $15,000 camera. So getting RED RAW in a full frame body at $2,000, this is the only way to get that. So unless you use, maybe if you have an RF mount and you use an EF speed booster and you get that full frame equivalent, you could get that. Anyways, the screen looks awesome. Having that screen on there too, and honestly, I think the trade-off for that for me would be, I've been thinking a lot about it, is would I rather have a full size? Well, let me back up. I guess the question is, did they go micro HDMI for budget reasons or size reasons? Was it cheaper to put a micro HDMI in the camera, or is it actually keep the size down on the camera? Because I'm fine if it's for a size reason. If it was an option, of course, I'd rather have a full-size HDMI. But if the screen is as good as everybody says it is, I shouldn't need it, especially for the use case that I want it. I just want something that I don't need to rig up, that is ready to go as a B cam or just as my YouTube camera here, or a BTS camera, something like that. So that's not a big deal for me. This camera also has, which my Komodo X doesn't have, is 32-bit internal, and that works through the 3.5 millimeter jack input. So doing videos where I use my my Hollyland microphones, or my DJI microphones, or anything that I may run into the camera. Okay, so I'm going to go over the resolutions that this camera has. I'm going to read them off here, because this has a lot of codec options here. It has R3D and E-RAW is what they're calling this RAW. This is not the same RAW you can get in any of the RED cameras either. This is a new RED codec. You can get ProRes RAW out of this camera, which I found interesting too, at 6K. You can get ProRes HQ at 5.3K, ProRes HQ 4K, and it can also shoot H.265 in 5.3K and in 4K up to 120 frames per second. So I'll list the data rates here for those codecs on the screen right now. It does shoot in RAW to in-RAW, Nikon's RAW. I've never used it, never worked with it, but I've heard a lot of mixed things about it, mostly not good. And if you have the option between in-RAW and RED RAW, I think most people are going to go with the RED RAW over in-RAW. So having these codec options are pretty cool in a camera that size. And the other thing is too, it takes a micro SD card. I don't really care, because I'm not going to be using that. I mean, it's one of those things where I kind of look at this as a CFast Express Type B camera. It just happens to have a micro SD card in there. I guess you could just leave a micro SD card in there as a just in case, and it just lives in there in case you forget your card. But I think you can only shoot one of the H.265 codecs on it. I don't think you can do ProRes, or surely not the RED RAW on the micro SD card. Okay, so I do have some concerns, but nothing that really concerned me enough to cancel my pre-order. But my concerns are mainly is the RED RAW file size. If I'm shooting more content like this, which I already am doing a lot on my KXZ just because I enjoy shooting on it, it's going to come with the larger file sizes, which not a big surprise. If I were to get 2 Reds, that's something to consider too. So I'm going to be going through a lot of hard drives and file space, and that's just part of it. I'm willing to go through that for R3D RAW. So it is a con, obviously, but if you want the best image quality, it comes with file size. Second is, if I end up getting rid of my A7 IV, it will be my photo camera too. Like I said, we do have an A7R III, which I'm hoping to upgrade eventually sometime soon to the A7R4 or 5. But that still holds up as a great photo camera alone, but having a camera that can do great video and photo is still nice to have. It's not a need, especially for where I'm at, but having one that can do that would be nice. So I will be downgrading from 30, I think it's 30 something megapixels in the A7 IV down to 24 megapixels, I believe is the Nikon. So not that big a deal, but I keep hearing the photos aren't great. It also does not have a mechanical shutter, so it's stuck with electronic shutter. Those are kind of the big cons I'm looking at with this, because the most cons people are talking about, the micro HDMI, the ergonomics, like I said, this would not be my A cam, but for my B cam, these things really wouldn't bother me for a B cam. This camera's gonna live on sticks or a gimbal, so I'm not too worried about that. I may use it as a walk around camera, but I don't do a lot of walk around content. Usually I'm putting it on a tripod or something like that. But this is definitely gonna be my main content creating camera, and I think it's kind of a bonus that it can be a B cam to my KXZ if needed. This camera, it does excite me. I am loving the image out of it, and I'm excited to get my hands on it. I don't know when they start shipping, but I did see on Amazon, if you order on Amazon, it says will arrive October 20th, but Nikon doesn't have any listed dates. I have not seen anybody announce any dates. The only date I've seen is on Amazon. If you go to order it, it says it'll arrive by October 20th. So I'm assuming it's gonna be somewhere around there. They did say late October, so that sounds right. But I did go ahead and pre-order this camera, and I'm really excited to get my hands on it. And if you wanna see more content on that camera, when it comes in, I'm going to be comparing it to the KXZ. I'm going to do a comparison between the A7 IV because I think that'll just be interesting to see, and I'm just curious. And because they're probably about this, yeah, they're about the same price, even used, and used A7 IV right now. And then also comparing it against the FX6. That's just something I want to do. But I'm really interested to see it right next to my KXZ and using a lot of different lenses and just see how it performs. So yeah, I just wanted to dump my thoughts here on the internet like everybody else is doing about this camera. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about the Nikon ZR, and if any of you guys are getting it as a B cam to your RED camera, are you in the same boat as me on that? And if you want to see more content about this camera coming up when I get my hands on it, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.